held the cashier's check in my hands, staring at the numbers that represented 5 years of my life. $217,000. The final payment on my parents' mortgage. My fingers trembled slightly as I traced the edges of the paper, remembering all the double shifts at the hospital, the missed vacations, the dates I'd cancelled because I picked up extra hours. My name is Wendy, and I thought this moment would feel different. Are you sure you want to do this, honey? Mum's voice carried that familiar note of concern that always made me feel both loved and slightly patronised. You could use this money for yourself. I smiled, the same smile I'd perfected over years of being the responsible one. It's what I've been working toward, Mum. I want to do this. Dad stood by the kitchen counter, arms crossed, watching. He hadn't said much since I arrived, but that wasn't unusual. The kitchen still smelled like the coffee he'd made earlier, probably the same brand they'd been buying since I was a kid. Well, he finally spoke, reaching for the check. We appreciate it. That was it. No tears, no hugs, no celebration. Just, we appreciate it. Like I'd bought them dinner, not sacrificed half a decade of my life to free them from debt. I forced myself to maintain the smile. I thought maybe we could go out to dinner, celebrate. Oh, sweetie, Mum glanced at her watch. We actually have plans with Ray tonight. He's pitching his new business idea to some investors. But maybe this weekend, of course. Ray. My younger brother, the eternal entrepreneur, always chasing the next big thing. I nodded, swallowing the familiar disappointment. Sure, this weekend works. 3 days later, I was having coffee with my cousin Celeste when my world tilted on its axis. That was so generous of you paying off the mortgage, she said, stirring her latte, especially with them taking out a new one so soon. I froze, my cup halfway to my lips. What? Celeste's eyes widened. Oh, you didn't know? Uncle Gene was talking about it at the family barbecue last week. Something about Ray's new tech startup. The coffee turned bitter in my mouth. How much? I shouldn't have said anything. Celeste, how much? She wouldn't meet my eyes. 250,000. I set my cup down carefully, too carefully, like it might shatter if I moved too quickly. Or maybe I was the one who might shatter. That evening, I drove to my parents' house. The same house I'd just freed from debt. The porch light was on, welcoming me home like always. Funny how things could look exactly the same when everything had changed. They were both in the living room when I walked in. Mum was doing her crossword puzzle, Dad watching the news. Is it true? My voice sounded strange, even to me. Did you remortgage the house for Ray? The silence that followed was answer enough. Wendy, Dad finally said, muting the TV. It's not what you think. Really? Because I think you took out a loan bigger than what I just paid off and gave it to Ray without even telling me. Your brother has a real opportunity here, Mum interjected. This could be his big break. Like the food delivery app was his big break, or the social media platform for pets. That's not fair, Dad's voice hardened. Ray takes risks. Sometimes that's what success requires. I laughed, a sharp sound that surprised even me. And my risk, my sacrifice, what was that? Nobody asked you to pay off our mortgage, Dad said flatly. That was your choice. The words hit like a physical blow. Mum must have seen something in my face because she stood up, reaching for me. Sweetie, we're grateful. We are. But this is our house. We don't owe you explanations about what we do with it. I stepped back from her touch. The room felt too small, too warm, too familiar. Every family photo on the wall, every worn cushion on the couch, every memory suddenly felt like a lie. You're right, I said quietly. You don't owe me explanations. I turned and walked out, ignoring Mom calling my name. In my car, I gripped the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white, staring at the house I'd sacrificed so much to save. The house that was now leveraged for Ray's latest dream. They didn't owe me explanations. But I was starting to realise exactly what I owed them, and I would pay that debt in full. The Excel spreadsheet on my laptop screen told a story, one of systematic financial entanglement that made my stomach turn. I sat at my kitchen table, methodically listing every shared account, every co-signed loan, every automatic payment that connected me to my family. Girl, this is wild, Erin said, peering over my shoulder at the growing list. She'd brought wine, but neither of us had touched it. This required clarity. I knew you were helping them, but this is like financial abuse. Netflix, Hulu, Prime, I muttered, typing. All in my name because Dad said their credit wasn't good enough for streaming services. I laughed hollowly. But apparently it was good enough for a $250,000 mortgage. What about Ray's car loan? Erin asked. The one you co-signed? I clicked to another tab. Still 3 years left on it. Payments coming from my account because he was between ventures 6 months ago. Cancel it all, Erin said firmly. Every single thing. My phone buzzed. A text from Mum. Dinner this weekend? We miss you. I ignored it, focusing instead on the laptop. One by one, I started closing accounts. Netflix cancelled. Hulu cancelled. The family cell phone plan I'd been managing since college terminated, effective end of billing cycle. What about Ray's car insurance? Erin pointed at the screen. That's next, I said, pulling up the insurance website. He missed 3 payments last month. I covered them because I didn't want my credit score to take a hit. And now? Now? I clicked cancel policy. He can figure it out himself. My phone buzzed again. Ray this time. Hey sis, insurance company says there's some issue. Can you check? I put the phone face down. You know they're going to freak out, Erin warned. Probably. I opened my email, creating a new account under a fake name, routing it through a VPN. But I'm done being the family ATM. The doorbell rang. Erin answered while I kept working. She returned with a manila envelope. Delivery for you, she said, handing it over. Inside was a glossy brochure for Ray's new startup, MediMatch. Apparently the future of personalised healthcare. I flipped through it, my blood running colder with each page. Look at this, I showed Erin. Medical Advisory Board, Dr. Wendy Sherman, nurse practitioner. What? Erin grabbed the brochure. Did you agree to this? Never. My hands were shaking. He's using my credentials to legitimise his company, without my knowledge. That's illegal. Yes, I said slowly, an idea forming. It is. My phone buzzed again. Dad, this time. Your mother's upset. Call her. Instead, I opened my laptop and searched for Danielle Fox, tech journalist. Her articles about exposing fraudulent startups populated the screen. What are you thinking? Erin asked, watching me. I'm thinking it's time someone looked closer at MediMatch. I started drafting an email. And I know just who might be interested. Wendy, Erin's voice was careful. This is your family we're talking about. I stopped typing and looked at her. They stopped being family the moment they took my sacrifice and used it to fund Ray's dreams instead. Just be careful. Revenge can backfire. This isn't revenge, I said, turning back to the laptop. This is consequences. I spent the next hour documenting everything. Screenshots of the brochure, Ray's LinkedIn profile touting my involvement, emails where he dodged my questions about the company. I attached them all to the email to Danielle. My phone kept buzzing. Mum again. Why is Netflix not working? Then Ray. Insurance company won't reinstate without payment. Need help ASAP. Dad. Family meeting, tomorrow, 6 p.m. Be there. I ignored them all, focusing on the email. Finally, I hit send. What now? Erin asked. I opened my banking app and started closing joint accounts. Now we wait. And while we wait, I'm going to make sure that when everything falls apart, I'm not caught in the debris. They're going to say you're being cruel. I thought about the mortgage, about years of sacrifice dismissed with, we don't owe you explanations. Maybe, I said, cancelling the last automatic payment to Ray's car loan. But I learnt from the best. My phone buzzed one final time. A new email notification from Danielle Fox. Subject, MediMatch investigation. Interesting tip. Would like to meet in person. When are you available? I smiled, feeling a cold satisfaction settle over me. Actually, I said to Erin, reaching for the untouched wine, now might be a good time for that drink. Because tomorrow I would start dismantling everything my brother had built on the foundation of my stolen credentials. And I would do it with the same quiet efficiency I'd once used to support them. The coffee shop was busy enough that no one would overhear us, but quiet enough that we could talk. Danielle Fox looked exactly like her Twitter profile, sharp eyes behind thick-rimmed glasses, a notebook in hand, and an expression that said she could smell a story from miles away. So, she said, stirring her Americano. Tell me about Medimatch. I pulled out my tablet, sliding it across the table. Everything's here. Company registration documents, marketing materials, investor pitch decks, all of them using my medical credentials without consent. Danielle scrolled through the files, her eyebrows rising. And you're their chief medical advisor? According to them. I took a sip of my coffee. First I heard about it was in their brochure. Your brother's the CEO? Yes. She looked up at me. Family drama? Family consequences, I corrected. There's more. Check the investor documents. She swiped through more pages, then stopped. They're claiming FDA approval pending, which they don't have, and won't get because their algorithm is basically WebMD with prettier graphics. And you know this how? I pulled out one more document, an internal email I'd gotten from Juan, Ray's childhood friend turned business partner. Because their tech lead sent me this, asking for help making their claims more medically accurate. Danielle read the email, her eyes widening. This is pretty damning. That's why I came to you. I leaned forward. Your articles about health tech fraud get results, and this needs results. She studied me for a long moment. You understand what this will do to your brother's company, his reputation? Perfectly. And you're okay with that? I thought about the mortgage, about years of manipulation. More than okay. My phone buzzed. Another text from Mom. Missing you at family dinner? Ray has big news about the company. I turned the phone face down. One more thing, I said, pulling out a final document. Their investor pitch claims they have a partnership with Memorial Hospital. They don't. I work there. I checked. Danielle's eyes lit up. Now that's interesting. She made some notes. I'll need to verify everything independently, of course. Of course. I stood up. One condition, I remain anonymous, at least initially. Understood. She gathered her materials. This will take a few days to fact check, but if everything checks out, she smiled. Well, let's just say Medimatch might have a very interesting week ahead. I was halfway home when Erin called. Ray's looking for you, she said without preamble. He stopped by my office. What did he want? Said he needs to talk about the company, seemed nervous. She paused. What did you do? Had coffee with a journalist. Wendy? Her voice was worried. Are you sure about this? I pulled into my driveway, noticing Ray's car parked on the street. Very sure. He's at your house, isn't he? Yep. Want me to come over? No, I said, watching Ray pace on my porch. I can handle this. I ended the call and got out of my car. Ray's face was flushed, his designer shirt wrinkled. Where have you been? He demanded. I've been calling all day. Working. I unlocked my front door, like most people do. He followed me inside. We need to talk about Medimatch. Oh? I kept my voice neutral. What about it? Some reporter's been asking questions about our medical advisory board. I set my keys down. Interesting. Wendy, his voice cracked slightly. If anyone starts digging, I know I should have asked before using your credentials, but what? I turned to face him. But you thought I wouldn't mind? Or you thought I wouldn't find out? It's not like that. I needed credibility for the investors. And your family. Family, I repeated. Like when Mum and Dad remortgaged the house I just paid off to fund your startup. He had the grace to look uncomfortable. That was their choice. And this is mine. I pulled out my phone, showing him Danielle's business card. I had coffee with her today. The colour drained from his face. You're the one who contacted her. Consider it my contribution to Medimatch's transparency efforts. You can't do this! He stepped forward, desperate. The investors, if this gets out, then what? I met his gaze steadily. They'll find out you lied, that you committed fraud. That sounds like a you problem, Ray. Mum and Dad will lose everything. They already made that choice. I opened my front door. Now get out. Wendy, please, get out. He left, shoulders slumped. Through the window, I watched him sit in his car for a long time before driving away. My phone buzzed with a text from Danielle. Story runs Monday. You might want to prepare for fallout. I smiled, remembering Dad's words. We don't owe you explanations. Well, now they'd owe explanations to everyone. The article dropped at 6 a.m. Monday morning. By 6:05, my phone was exploding with notifications. I sat in my kitchen, drinking coffee, watching it all unfold like a perfectly choreographed dance. "Health tech startup Medimatch caught in credentialing scandal," screamed the headline. Danielle had done her job well. The article was devastating in its precision. Mum called first, then Dad, then Ray, 3 times in succession. I let them all go to voicemail. At 8 a.m, my doorbell rang. I opened it to find Dad standing there, looking older than I'd ever seen him. "Did you do this?" he asked without preamble. "Come in," I said, stepping aside. "Coffee?" "Damn it, Wendy, answer me." His voice shook. "Did you go to that reporter?" I poured myself another cup of coffee. "Yes." He sank into a kitchen chair. "Why?" "Really?" I leaned against the counter. "You want to talk about why? How about we talk about my name being used without my consent? Or the investors you convinced to mortgage their futures on Ray's lies? He's your brother, and I'm your daughter." The words exploded out of me. "But that didn't stop you from taking everything I gave you and handing it to him." My phone buzzed again. A text from Juan. "Investors are pulling out. What the hell happened?" Dad's phone rang. "Mum," according to the screen. He answered on speaker. "Jean." Her voice was panicked. "Ray just got a call from the FDA. They're launching an investigation." I couldn't help but smile. The FDA had been my anonymous tip too. "Anne, I'm with Wendy," Dad said. "She's admitted to going to the press." "Wendy?" Mum's voice cracked. "How could you do this to your brother?" "The same way you did it to me," I replied calmly, without explanation or apology. The doorbell rang again. This time it was Ray, looking like he hadn't slept. "The investors want their money back," he said, pushing past me into the house. "All of them, even the early ones." "That sounds expensive," I observed. He whirled on me. "This is your fault. You've ruined everything." "No," I corrected him. "I exposed everything. You ruined it yourself when you decided to commit fraud." "It wasn't fraud. It was creative marketing." "Tell that to the FDA," I said, "and the investors, and Memorial Hospital's legal team." Dad stood up. "We can fix this. We'll remortgage the house again." "With what equity?" I cut in. "You already leveraged everything for his first round of funding." My phone buzzed with an email notification from my lawyer confirming he'd filed the legal notice about my unauthorised credentials. "What's that?" Ray asked, watching me read. "My lawyer," I said, "filing notice that since my name and credentials were used fraudulently, I may be seeking damages." The colour drained from Dad's face. "Damages?" "From the company and its officers." I looked directly at Ray. "That's you, little brother." "You can't sue me," Ray whispered. "I'm family." "Family?" I laughed. "Family doesn't steal identities. Family doesn't commit fraud. Family doesn't take someone's sacrifice and turn it into leverage for someone else's dreams." Mum's voice came through Dad's phone, still on speaker. "Wendy, please, we can work this out." "Like we worked out the mortgage?" I asked. "Or like we worked out Ray's car loan, or his insurance, or any of the 1,000 other times you took advantage of my help?" "You went too far," Dad said, his voice hard. I met his gaze steadily. "No, you just never saw how far I could go." Ray's phone rang. Juan again. He answered, his face growing paler with each second. "The tech team is quitting," he said after hanging up. "They're afraid of legal exposure." "Smart of them," I noted. "Please," Ray turned to me, "help me fix this." I looked at my brother, really looked at him. The designer clothes bought with investor money, the expensive watch, the entitled assumption that I would clean up his mess, just like always. "No," I said simply. "What?" "No," I repeated. "I'm not helping. I'm not fixing this. I'm not covering for you. Not anymore." Dad's phone buzzed with a text. He read it, his face grim. "The bank wants to discuss the mortgage," he said. "Today." "Then you should go," I replied, opening my front door. "All of you." They left one by one. Ray first, then Dad. Mum's voice on the phone begged me to reconsider until Dad finally hung up. Standing in my quiet house, I picked up my phone and dialed. "Erin, it's done. The match is lit." I paused, looking at the family photo still hanging on my wall. Time to watch it burn. The next 2 weeks unfolded like a slow-motion car crash. I watched it all from a distance, declining calls, ignoring texts, and focusing on my work at the hospital. But news travelled fast in our small community. Did you see? Erin texted me one morning. One suing Ray for misappropriation of funds. I had seen. Just like I'd seen the investors' lawsuit, the FDA investigation notice, and the local business journal's scathing follow-up piece. My phone lit up with Mum's number for the third time that day. This time something made me answer. Mum? Wendy. Her voice was shaky. I'm at the emergency room. My nurse training kicked in automatically. What happened? Chest pains. The doctor says it's probably stress-related, but... She paused. Could you come, please? I closed my eyes, counting to 10. Which hospital? Memorial. Of course. My hospital. Where I worked. Where she knew I couldn't ignore her. 20 minutes later, I stood outside her curtained bay in the ER, reading her chart. Anxiety attack. Blood pressure through the roof. Your daughter's here, I heard the nurse say. Oh, thank God, Mum's voice trembled. Wendy, honey. I pulled back the curtain. She looked small in the hospital bed, her face pale against the white sheets. Your blood pressure is 180/95, I said, keeping my voice professional. When did you last take your medication? We ran out. The pharmacy wouldn't refill without payment, because I'd removed them from my insurance. Another consequence. The doctor's ordering something for anxiety, I said. You should feel better soon. Wendy, she reached for my hand. Please, we need help. The bank. They're talking foreclosure. Ray's being sued. Your father can't sleep. Stop! I pulled my hand away. Just stop. But we're family. Family? I laughed bitterly. Was it family when you remortgaged the house I paid for? Was it family when Ray stole my credentials? Was it family when Dad said they didn't owe me explanations? A nurse appeared with medication. I stepped back, letting her work. Ray's living in the basement now, Mum said after the nurse left. He had to sell his car. Juan's lawyers took everything else. That sounds like Ray's problem. He's your brother, and I'm your daughter. The words echoed in the small space. But that never seemed to matter before. My pager buzzed, a genuine emergency in another part of the hospital. Your blood pressure should stabilise soon, I said, returning to professional mode. The doctor will discharge you when it does. Wendy, please! I was already walking away. Later that night, my doorbell rang. It was Ray, looking nothing like the confident startup CEO he'd been a month ago. I need money, he said without preamble. Just 2,000. For lawyers. No. Come on, sis. I'm desperate here. Like I was desperate when you stole my credentials. I crossed my arms. Or like Mom was desperate for attention today. He had the grace to look ashamed. That was low of her. Learned from the best, didn't she? Juan's going to take everything, he said. The investors too. I'll be ruined. You ruined yourself, Ray. I just exposed it. My phone buzzed, a text from Dad. Your mother's home. No thanks to you. I showed Ray the message. See? Still my fault somehow. Dad's scared, Ray said. We all are. Everything's falling apart. Yes, I agreed. It is. We stood in silence for a moment, the porch light casting shadows on his face. I never meant, he started. Yes, you did, I cut him off. You meant every bit of it. You just never thought you'd face consequences. What do you want from us? He asked finally. Nothing, I replied. Not anymore. Another text buzzed through from the hospital administrator. Congratulations on the position in Boston. When can you start? Ray saw the message. You're leaving. Got a better offer. Better hospital. Better pay. I smiled. No family strings attached. But what about us? What about you? I stepped back inside. Figure it out yourself. I'm done being the family safety net. Wendy. I closed the door on whatever he was going to say next. Through the window, I watched him stand there for a long moment before walking away, shoulders slumped, looking older than his years. My phone buzzed one more time. Erin. Mum called me looking for you. You okay? I texted back. Better than okay. Boston job is confirmed. Help me pack next weekend? Her response was immediate. Hell yes. Time for a fresh start. I looked around my house, at the family photos I'd already taken down, the boxes I'd started packing, the life I was preparing to leave behind. They'd taught me about family, about loyalty, about sacrifice. Now they could learn about consequences. The subpoena arrived on a Tuesday. I'd been expecting it, Ray's last desperate attempt to shift blame. I handed it straight to my lawyer without even breaking stride. He's claiming you were an informal advisor, my lawyer said over lunch. Says you knew about the company's claims and tacitly approved them. I pulled out my phone, showing her the screenshots. Every email where I explicitly told him not to use my name. Every text where I demanded he remove my credentials, all dated months before the expose. This is good, she nodded. Very good. My phone buzzed. Celeste calling. I answered, putting it on speaker. Have you seen the local business journal? She asked without preamble. Not yet. Ray's on the front page. Local tech startups, spectacular fall, a story of fraud and family betrayal. I smiled. Sounds accurate. Wendy, Celeste's voice softened. I never would have thought family could do that to each other. I didn't either, I replied, until they did it first. After lunch, I drove past my parents' house. My old sanctuary turned battlefield. The lawn needed mowing. Ray's beaten-up backup car sat in the driveway, looking as defeated as its owner. A figure stood at the window, Mom, watching me drive by. I didn't slow down. Back at my place, Erin was waiting with packing boxes. Your mom called me again, she said, taping up a box. Wanted to know if you'd received the subpoena. Of course she did. I started wrapping photos in newspaper. What did you tell her? That she should try asking you herself. Erin paused. She said she's tried. Said you've blocked their numbers. I did. They're falling apart, you know. The whole family. I carefully wrapped the last photo, my nursing school graduation. They're facing consequences. There's a difference. The doorbell rang. Through the window, I saw Danielle Fox standing on my porch. Mind if I come in? She asked when I opened the door. I have something you might want to see. She pulled out her laptop, opening a draft article. Juan sent me these. Internal emails showing Ray knew exactly what he was doing with your credentials. He even joked about it to investors. I read through them, my hands steady despite the rage building inside me. When does this run? Tomorrow. She watched me carefully. You sure you don't want to go on record now? Tell your side? No, I said. The emails tell enough. After Danielle left, Erin helped me pack until evening. We were almost done when my phone rang, an unknown number. Ms. Sherman? A formal voice asked. This is Marcus from First National Bank. We're calling about the mortgage on 1542 Oak Street, my parents' address. They're 3 months behind, Marcus continued. As you've made previous payments, we wanted to inform you. I'm not involved with that property anymore, I cut in. You'll need to speak with the owners directly. After hanging up, I sat heavily on my couch. You okay? Erin asked. They're going to lose the house, I said. The house I paid off. The house they remortgaged for Ray. They're going to lose it. And how do you feel about that? Before I could answer, my doorbell rang again. This time it was Dad. You need to fix this, he said as soon as I opened the door. Ray's being destroyed. Your mother's sick with worry. The bank... No, I said simply. What? No, I don't need to fix this. I'm not going to fix this. I'm your father. Really? I stepped onto the porch, closing the door behind me. Because when I paid off your mortgage, you were just the homeowner. When I asked about the new loan, you were just the decision maker. When I questioned Ray's fraud, you were just his defender. That's not fair. Fair, I laughed. You want to talk about fair? How about stealing 5 years of my life and using it to fund Ray's lies? Was that fair? We're losing everything, he said quietly. No, I corrected him. You're losing what you gambled. There's a difference. Jean? Mum's voice called from their car parked on the street. Is she going to help? Dad looked at me one last time. Are you? I thought about the subpoena, the emails, the years of manipulation. No, I said, I'm not. He walked away without another word. I watched their car disappear down the street, then went back inside where Erin was pretending she hadn't heard everything. Last box, she said, holding up my nursing awards. Want these wrapped? I took the awards, feeling their weight. Achievements I'd earned while supporting a family that never supported me back. No, I said, placing them carefully in the box. I want them displayed in my new office in Boston, where they'd remind me daily that I'd finally chosen myself. KWC Estates, LLC, I said into the phone, my voice professionally neutral. Yes, I understand you're interested in the property on Oak Street. I sat in my lawyer's office, finalising the paperwork. Through careful manoeuvring and a private investor friend of Erin's, I'd managed to buy my parents' defaulted mortgage debt through a shell company. The current tenants will remain, I told the bank representative, with adjusted rental terms, of course. After hanging up, my lawyer slid the final document across her desk. You're sure about this? I signed without hesitation. Absolutely. They'll figure it out eventually, she warned. Shell company or not, they'll realise who bought the debt. By then, it won't matter. My phone buzzed, a text from Ray. Bank says someone bought the mortgage. Please tell me it was you. We can work something out. I deleted it without responding. The next morning, I drove past the house again. The foreclosure sign was being replaced with a new one. Property of KWC Estates LLC. Dad stood on the porch, watching the change with slumped shoulders. My phone rang. Mum. The bank sold our mortgage, she said when I answered. We don't know who to... We can't reach Wendy. We need help. Have you considered downsizing? I kept my voice professionally detached. There are nice apartments on the west side of town. Apartments? She sounded scandalised. This is our home. No, I corrected her. It's a property you borrowed against, and now someone else owns that debt. But where will Ray live? I laughed. Still worried about Ray, even now? He's your brother. Goodbye, Mum. An hour later, I met with the property management company I'd hired. Rent will increase to market rate, I instructed. No exceptions, no delays. If they can't pay, start eviction proceedings. The current tenants... The manager hesitated. They're your family, right? No, I said firmly. They're tenants who made poor financial decisions. Treat them accordingly. That evening, Erin came over with wine and pizza. Your mum called me again, she said, pouring glasses. They got the new rental agreement today. She was crying. Let me guess. They can't afford it. Ray's unemployment ran out. Your dad's pension barely covers utilities. She studied me. You're really going to make them pay market rate? Why shouldn't I? I took a sip of wine. They took my gift and turned it into Ray's gambling chip. Now they can pay what everyone else pays. My phone buzzed. Dad this time. The rent increase, he said when I answered. It's impossible. We can't... Market rate is market rate, I cut in. The new owners have been very clear. New owners? His voice sharpened. Who are they? We can't even get a name, just some LLC. That sounds frustrating, I said blandly. Like when someone makes major financial decisions without consulting others involved. A long pause. Then, it's you, isn't it? You bought the mortgage. KWC Estates LLC bought the mortgage, I corrected. I suggest you direct any questions to the property manager. Damn it, Wendy. We're your family. No, I said quietly. Your tenants who are late on their first payment. I'd suggest fixing that before eviction proceedings begin. I hung up as Erin watched me with wide eyes. Ice cold, she said admiringly. Learned from the best. I reached for my laptop. Want to help me book flights to Boston? I have interviews next week. My phone buzzed again. Ray. Just saw the rental agreement, he texted. This is cruel, I typed back. Like using my credentials without permission? Like taking advantage of my sacrifices? That kind of cruel? I'm your brother. No, I replied. You're a basement tenant who's behind on rent. I blocked his number before he could respond. Later that night, I drove past the house one last time. Lights burned in every window. Probably another family meeting about how to handle their cruel, ungrateful daughter. But I wasn't their daughter anymore. I wasn't their safety net, their ATM, their convenient solution to every problem. I was their landlord. And landlords didn't accept excuses instead of rent. My phone buzzed with an email from the property manager. Tenants requesting meeting to discuss payment plan. I replied with what Dad had once told me. No explanations needed. Market rate is market rate. Then I drove home, to my half-packed house, to my boxes labelled Boston, to my future that had nothing to do with being anyone's saviour. They taught me about property values. Now they could learn about paying the price. Last box, Erin announced, setting it down in my new Boston apartment. Though I still can't believe you only brought 8 boxes total. Clean breaks require light packing, I said, opening the window to let in the autumn breeze. The view of the Charles River made me smile, so different from my old street with its weight of memories. My phone buzzed. The property manager back home. Your parents made partial rent, she reported. Still short 400. Standard procedure then, I replied. Send the notice. Erin watched me hang up. You really aren't going to give them any breaks, are you? They never gave me any. My laptop pinged with an email notification. Danielle Fox requesting a follow-up interview. Still no, I typed back. But thanks for asking. Coffee? Erin held up 2 mugs. Before I head to the airport. We sat by the window, watching boats on the river, when my phone buzzed again. Ray. Please, his text read. Just $2,000 to stay afloat. Last time I'll ask. I showed Erin the message. Want to bet? No bet, she laughed. He'll ask again next week. Not if I can help it. I blocked his new number. You know what's weird? Erin said after a moment. You don't seem happy about any of this. Not really. I considered her words, watching a sailboat cut through the water below. It doesn't feel triumphant, I admitted. It just feels fair. Fair enough to be worth it. Before I could answer, my phone rang, the property manager again. Your father's here in my office, she said. Insisting on speaking to the owner? I sighed. Put him on. Wendy, Dad's voice was rough. We need to talk about this, face to face. No, we don't. Your mother cries every night. Ray's talking about moving to his friend's couch. This house, it's all we have left. Had, I corrected. It's all you had left, before you leveraged it for Ray's dreams instead of protecting it with mine. We were wrong, he said quietly. Is that what you want to hear? We were wrong. What I wanted to hear was that 5 years ago when I handed you that cheque. What I wanted to hear was 3 months ago when I discovered the truth. I paused. Now? Now I just want my rent on time. I hung up, turning to find Erin watching me with a strange expression. What? You really did it, she said. You really broke free. Free? I laughed. Is that what this feels like? Doesn't it? I walked to one of the boxes, pulling out my nursing awards. One by one, I placed them on the windowsill where the morning sun would hit them. No, I said finally. It feels like learning, like finally understanding what they taught me all along. Which was? That loyalty isn't servitude, that love isn't a blank cheque, that family... I placed the last award, adjusting it slightly. Family is what you do, not what you're born into. My phone buzzed one last time. Mom. We're having dinner tonight, her text read. Your empty chair. It hurts to look at. I typed back. Then maybe you finally understand how I felt, watching you hand Ray everything I worked for. Then I turned off my phone. Help me unpack? I asked Erin, before your flight. We worked in comfortable silence until she had to leave. At the door, she hugged me tight. You good? She asked. I thought about the property manager's reports, about Ray's desperate texts, about Mom's empty chair. I'm free, I said. Maybe that's better than good. After she left, I stood at my window, watching the river flow. My phone lay silent on the counter, probably filling with more messages I wouldn't answer. In the distance, a hospital helicopter landed at Mass General, my new workplace, my new life, my new start. My laptop pinged with an email from the property manager. Rent notice delivered. Mr. Sherman says to tell you we're still family. I typed 2 words in response. No explanations. Then I closed my laptop and unpacked my last box, my nursing school graduation photo. I'd kept it not for the memory, but for the reminder. That girl who smiled so hopefully had learned her lessons well. Just not the ones they'd meant to teach. I placed the photo face down in a drawer. Some memories weren't meant to be displayed. Some lessons weren't meant to be forgotten. They'd taught me loyalty. I'd learned not to confuse it with servitude. And that, more than revenge or justice or even freedom, was worth every box I'd packed and every bridge I'd burned. That was the real inheritance they'd given me. And unlike their house, it was one I'd keep.